Lex, if you could hear us, we love you, we miss you, we will never stop looking for you.
No, I miss her. I pick up the phone sometime and I think about the phone calls that we shared daily throughout the day, all day. I talk to my baby all day.
In the late hours of January 30th, 2022, a 29-year-old woman went missing after meeting her children's father, vanished, never to be seen again. At around 3 p.m., hours prior, a woman had left her mother's house in Anderson, South Carolina, planning to drop off her children with her co-parent. What started as a simple custody exchange would turn into a horrific chain of events that no one saw coming. Just moments after meeting him, she would disappear into the night. No one could have foreseen it. The unexpected disappearance of a woman who had been living in constant fear for weeks. It wasn't until February 2nd, 2022, when a property owner would find her missing vehicle along a remote dirt road in a heavily wooded area, with no signs of her. What really happened to Alexis after meeting with the father of her children? This is more than just a missing persons case. It's a chilling mystery that begins with a mother's disappearance and leads to a web of unanswered questions. This is the tragic life and death of Alexis Ware. Born on May 30th, 1992, 29-year-old Alexis Ware was a vibrant and ambitious woman from Greenville, South Carolina. She was the embodiment of life's bright side, a person who didn't just exist but truly lived. Known for her free spirit and adventurous heart, it was completely out of character that she would vanish without a trace. Known for her cheerful and bubbly personality, radiant smile, infectious laugh, she made others feel like they were the most important person in the world. Alexis made her mark on everyone she met, but she had always had a deep passion for beauty and personal expression. From a young age, Alexis was drawn to makeup, hair, and fashion. Her love for transforming both herself and others led her to a successful career as a makeup artist and hairstylist. Her clients weren't just coming to her for a look, they were coming to gain confidence. Alexis had a knack for bringing out the best in people, making them feel seen, heard, and beautiful. She wasn't just about the exterior. She was all about uplifting people, helping them feel good about themselves. Alexis's professional life was marked by success, but it was another role that would most define her. Her role as a mother. She was a proud mother of 2 children, a 9-year-old daughter from a previous relationship, and a 2-year-old son with her ex-boyfriend, T.J. Patterson. Her children were her world. According to her mother, Alberta, Alexis did everything for her children. She poured her heart into her kids, and her love for them was at the center of every decision she made. Given her deep devotion to her children, it is nothing short of shocking that she would just leave without anyone knowing her whereabouts. But beyond motherhood, Alexis had big dreams. She had aspired to do more, to go beyond what she had already accomplished. She had just begun making moves to create a better future for her children by planning to move to Atlanta. With a business license in hand, Alexis was preparing to take her career to the next level. She dreamed of opening her own salon and boutique, and Atlanta seemed like the perfect place to bring her vision to life. It was a city filled with opportunity, and she had family there to support her. Alexis was already gathering merchandise and planning the details for her future, driven by the desire to provide a better life for her children. Her social media presence, especially on Instagram, also grew significantly. She had over 30,000 followers on her account, where she shared beauty tips, photos, and moments from her life. She was open and transparent with her followers, allowing them a glimpse into the life of a young mother chasing her dreams. But while her rise in the beauty industry and social media was exciting, it also brought with it unwanted attention, something that Alexis had begun to fear. She had begun to confide in her family about the increasing number of harassing messages she received on social media. She was being stalked by men who sent unsolicited, disturbing messages. Alexis had even expressed to her family that she feared these interactions could one day put her in harm's way. Despite the darker side of social media, Alexis kept pushing forward, determined to continue pursuing her goals. But little did anyone know, this was only a small glimpse into the danger she would soon face. Alexis had a sense of intuition, especially when it came to her own safety. This intuition became more pronounced in the days leading up to her disappearance. Something wasn't right, and Alexis knew it. She confided in her mother, expressing her fear that someone was following her. specifically a black truck that seemed to be tailing her regularly. She felt as though someone was watching her and that something bad was about to happen. But despite her growing anxiety, she still decided to go about her life. That weekend, Alexis and her children drove to her mother's house in Anderson, South Carolina. It was supposed to be a normal visit, a chance to spend time with family, but that weekend would turn into a nightmare no one could have anticipated. The morning of January 28, 2022, seemed like any other for Alexis and her family. She and her children had driven from Greenville to Anderson to spend the weekend with her mother, Alberta. Alexis and Alberta shared a close bond, and these weekend visits were often a chance to catch up and bond. But this particular weekend would immediately take a strange turn. According to Alberta, Alexis's mom, they arrived late in the day, so Alberta just made dinner for everyone. Afterward, they all quietly went to bed. Alexis was exhausted, the kids were tired, and Alberta was too. Everything seemed fine at that moment. However, things began to change the following morning. On Saturday, January 29th, Alexis told her mother that she had been followed by a black truck for weeks. Alberta tried to calm her daughter, but Alexis seemed genuinely afraid. She even showed her mother blocked phone calls, saying that someone had been calling her repeatedly, even after she had blocked them. Alexis was convinced someone was stalking her, but she couldn't say who or why. And then, an eerie moment, Alexis made a disturbing statement. She didn't think she would make it to her 30th birthday, which was just 2 months away. Alexis loved her birthday and would always plan for it months in advance. It was a time for her to celebrate herself, and she was always excited for the occasion. So when she said she didn't think she'd make it to her 30th birthday, it was one of the most terrifying things she could have said. Her mom, Alberta, was alarmed and pressed her for more details, asking why she felt that way. But Alexis just looked at her and said she just knew. Those words weighed heavily on her family, as it was clear that whatever was going on, the harassment Alexis was facing was frightening her to the point where she feared for her life. However, her family would later share something chilling. Alexis had recently become very interested in astrology. She would often call them, sharing warnings like being careful while driving or paying attention to certain colors, things she would learn from her daily or weekly horoscopes. Her family wasn't always sure if these fears were based on intuition, anxiety, or if they were grounded in something real. But seeing the phone calls Alexis was receiving and hearing the things she was saying made it feel like something was really happening, but no one knew what it was. By the following day, Sunday, January 30th, Alexis was still at her mom's house, although she was supposed to go home that day. Alberta, understandably, didn't want her to leave and encouraged her to stay. She expressed concern about Alexis's safety and the safety of her children, especially after everything she had shared over the weekend. At first, Alexis agreed to stay, but eventually, she reassured her mom, saying everything was fine and she would be okay. As she began doing her hair, makeup, and getting dressed up, making it seem like her fears were fading and things were returning to normal. Despite Alexis trying to show that everything was fine, she continued to voice her fears, which unsettled her mom. She specifically mentioned being scared something might happen to her while driving, especially with her children in the car. She said she needed to protect them, and this fear seemed very real, especially since she was about to make the drive home. They even made plans for Alexis to call her once she got home, something Alexis always did. But given the circumstances, the request felt even more urgent. Alexis packed up her things, loaded her children into the car, and left. But after Alexis left, something went terribly wrong. Around 3 o'clock that afternoon on Sunday, Alberta still hadn't received a call from Alexis. Out of worry, she went ahead and FaceTimed her daughter to make sure they had made it back home safely. Alexis fortunately answered, and because they were on FaceTime, Alberta could see she was lying in her own bed, safe inside her home. Alexis reassured her mother that she had made it home just fine, explaining that she was simply exhausted from the weekend and needed to rest. She promised to call her mom again once she woke up. For a moment, everything seemed okay, but that promised call from Alexis after her nap would never come, and that's when things started to take an unsettling turn. At some point after the FaceTime call, though the exact timing remains unclear, Alexis reportedly saw the same black truck she believed had been following her parked outside her apartment. This sighting sent her fear and anxiety spiraling. Feeling cornered, She allegedly contacted the police to report that she was being stalked and that the vehicle was lingering in her parking lot. The issue with this information, however, is that there has never been any confirmed police reports matching that description. There's no public record online, and it remains unclear whether Alexis directly spoke to the authorities or how exactly this information surfaced. Still, her family has insisted that Alexis did in fact make a call to police that day about the black truck. What is known is that after this point, Alexis gathered both of her children, got into her car, and left her apartment. But Alexis's decision to leave would mark the beginning of a mystery that no one was prepared for. Alberta, after waiting for hours for a call from Alexis but not getting any, decided to call several times, but each call went straight to voicemail. Alexis never called her back, and that's when the real worry began. Hours later, Alberta received a phone call from Alexis's ex, TJ. He asked if she had heard from Alexis, which left Alberta feeling confused. She explained that she had been expecting a call from Alexis, but it never came through, and that she had tried calling several times, but no response. By February 1st, 2022, Alexis had been missing for over a day. Her family knew Alexis would never leave her children for so long, and she would never simply disappear without a trace. Alexis's family decided to file a missing persons report with the Anderson County Sheriff's Office.
Sergeant J.T. Foster with the Anderson County Sheriff's Office says they've also collected cell phone records, GPS data, and interviewed family, friends, and associates.
We checked with the hospitals, local detention centers, the coroner's office to make sure there's not been nobody that's not been identified yet. You then check with TSA for flights to make sure that she didn't leave the country.
Authorities began their investigation, but Alexis's sudden disappearance posed a number of challenges. The case seemed straightforward at first. Alexis had been last seen in the company of her ex-boyfriend, TJ Patterson, who was with her when she handed over their two children at a 7-Eleven in Anderson. But TJ's story would share something strange and confusing. He explained that sometime that afternoon, presumably after Alexis returned home from her mother's house, Alexis reached out to him with a request to take the kids for the night. This wasn't something that never happens, so at first it didn't seem unusual to TJ. However, the request was sudden and unplanned. Alexis was supposed to bring both children to TJ's mom's house in Anderson, the same town she had visited that morning and where her mother Alberta lived. But on the way to Anderson, Alexis would call TJ again. She said she was running low on gas and didn't have enough money to finish the trip. They worked out a plan, and that was when TJ told her to head to a 7-Eleven on Highway 29 North in Anderson, where they agreed to meet so he could help her. According to him, at around 7:30 p.m., Alexis had arrived at the gas station with both children. She handed over the kids, and they both got in the back of his car. She also got gas for her car, and TJ said their plan was for her to follow him to his mother's house, where the children would stay for the night.
She said, "Where you at?" I said, "I'm at my aunt's house watching the game." So she was like, well, come and meet me on 29 at 7-Eleven if we can get the kids. She said, "I'm about to run out of gas. I got like 3 miles left." I said, okay. So I pull up at 7-Eleven. You know what I'm saying? She's sitting at the gas pump. I get out, go in the car. Go in the stove. I pump 35 in her gas tank, and I put 20 in mine. I come back out, get my son out the car. You know what I'm saying?
But then Alexis mentioned something odd. She said she would head to her own mom's house afterward, which struck TJ as odd. After all, Alexis had just left Anderson that morning. If she had planned to drop the kids off with TJ, why hadn't she done it then? Especially knowing she might not have enough gas to make the return trip. She hadn't mentioned this plan to her mom either. TJ said that after filling up on gas and switching the kids into his car, they both got into their respective vehicles and drove in the same direction. But at a red light, just beyond the gas station, Alexis suddenly swerved around TJ and took off in the opposite direction. Surprised, TJ thought she might turn around and follow him again, but she never did. He tried calling her several times, but she didn't answer. After a while, TJ made his way to his mother's house, thinking maybe Alexis had just had to run an errand. But when she didn't show up, his worry began to grow.
She's like, "Give me a hug me." So I hugged her, you know what I'm saying? The hug didn't feel right, something wasn't right. So I got there and hugged and got in the car, and I pulled off. For y'all the one that's in Anderson, I turn on Amity Road as I pass Welfare Church. I barely passed Welfare Church. and she got dang on, she sped around me, bust right going out Anderson Belton Highway. So I just started calling. I'm like, where the hell she going? She supposed to been following me to my mom's house, but she said she was going to her mama's house. I called her mama. I'm like, man, you talked to Liz? She supposed to be coming down there. She was like, nah, I ain't talked to her.
By the following day, Alexis had failed to check in with anyone, including TJ, about the kids, which was why he had placed the call to Alberta. This was completely out of character, and now her family knew they had to take action. Authorities decided to pull the surveillance footage from the gas station to verify TJ's account of the events. The footage provided a clear view of Alexis's car and confirmed that she was indeed the one driving at the time. She was wearing a black jacket, gray joggers, a black hair bonnet, and possibly black Crocs. However, the surveillance video didn't reveal much more, as a tractor trailer drove in front of the camera, obstructing the view for the remainder of the time Alexis and TJ were at the station. Unfortunately, they couldn't confirm specific details, such as whether the kids were transferred into TJ's car. What happened after she sped off in the opposite direction remains unclear. Despite this, investigators trusted what TJ had said, and it was confirmed that he arrived at his mother's house with both children that night. The following morning, TJ also showed up for work as planned. While there was no evidence suggesting TJ's involvement, Alexis's family still felt that he might know more than he was letting on. But investigators would shift their focus to something else. What happened after Alexis had sped away from TJ at the gas station? They found a few clues that helped them piece together what might have happened next. They tracked Alexis's red Honda through several sightings, and phone records indicated that shortly after leaving the gas station. Not only that, Alexis's phone also pinged in Abbeville County around 8:15 p.m. This was likely the last confirmed signal from her phone. Abbeville is a very small town, and it's unclear why Alexis would have gone there, but it's possible she was just passing through. But investigators continue to track her movements using traffic cameras. They discovered that Alexis's car was seen heading south toward Augusta, Georgia. This was significant because she had an appointment at the Georgia Lottery office in Augusta the following day. But why would she be traveling there the night before? Augusta is about a 2-hour drive from her location, so it's possible Alexis thought she could get a hotel for the night and attend her appointment the next day. However, things would soon take another strange turn. Alexis's car was seen heading back towards South Carolina. Authorities aren't sure if she made it back to South Carolina, but there's an indication that she may have returned to Anderson. The timing was strange, as Alexis had not mentioned her plans to go to Augusta to anyone. She had just been with her mother, and her visit seemed routine. The fact that she decided to drive so far, especially with no gas money, raised more questions. Was she trying to reach a destination in a hurry? Or was there someone or something that forced her to take that path? But Alexis's sudden detour was not just a coincidence. Authorities later managed to track multiple sightings of Alexis's red Honda in Anderson that night. Surveillance footage confirmed that Alexis's car was seen at an apartment complex, though authorities wouldn't disclose any details about the location or what happened there. Alexis's family later confirmed the presence of her car at the complex, but no one can explain why she would be there. Her mother, Alberta, didn't recognize the apartment complex name and hadn't heard Alexis mention it before. It was unclear if she had stopped there on her way to Abbeville or after she returned, but there seemed to be no reason for Alexis to be in that area at all. The family decided to print out flyers and visit the complex, hoping someone might recognize Alexis, but no one did.
Family members and activists are pushing for more help in the search for a missing South Carolina mother of two. Alexis Ware was last seen 3 weeks ago on January 30th in Anderson County. Her red Honda car was later found on a rural property in McCormick County, but Ware has still not been found. Investigators do not know how the car ended up there. Activists have requested the FBI's help, but the agency released a statement to our sister station in Greenville saying law enforcement has not asked for their help. Anyone with information is asked to call the Anderson County Sheriff's Office.
But they would receive something disturbing. Alexis's family began receiving harassing, anonymous texts from someone claiming to have Alexis. This only seemed possible given that Alexis had been dealing with unwanted attention and harassment before. These claims and tips flooded in, eventually reaching the police, and each one gave the family a brief moment of hope, only for it to be crushed when they learned none of it was true. But what came next would only make things worse. On February 2nd, just a day after Alexis was officially reported missing, a property owner in McCormick County, South Carolina, about 70 miles south of Anderson, noticed a red car parked along a remote dirt road in a heavily wooded area. Initially, he assumed it belonged to someone involved in logging or hunting, as the area was known for both activities. But after a few days, with no sign of anyone returning to the car, he contacted authorities. When deputies arrived, they discovered that it was Alexis's 2019 red Honda Accord. The area where the car was found was described as narrow, secluded, and surrounded by dense pine trees, making it a place only someone familiar with the area would know. It didn't seem like a place someone would randomly stumble upon.
This Thursday will mark 3 years since Alexis Ware was last seen driving away from a 7-Eleven in Anderson County. Her car was later found near the Georgia state line, but she was nowhere to be found.
And that case remains open under the Anderson County Sheriff's Office. Tonight, her loved ones are pushing for more to be done, not only for her case, but for other missing person cases. Fox Carolina's Kennedy Harris has more.
Given the timeline and locations where Alexis's phone had pinged, it seems likely that after her trip to Abbeville and heading toward Augusta, she may have pulled off into McCormick County on the way back. It was a random, isolated place, right by the Savannah River with nothing nearby but woodland and farmland. It seemed like an ideal location for someone trying to hide or abandon a vehicle. Her car was muddy, possibly driven through dirt roads or off the main path, but it wasn't hidden, just parked and left behind. But what was found inside the vehicle was even more alarming. Inside Alexis's Honda, authorities found all of her belongings: her phone, purse, ID, keys, makeup, and even a bag of clothing in the trunk. The winning lottery tickets she had been so eager to collect in Augusta the next day were also discovered inside, along with her black hair bonnet, which had been seen in surveillance footage at the 7-Eleven. But there were no signs of a struggle, no indication that anyone had taken anything, and no evidence that anyone else had been inside the car. It appeared that Alexis, or someone else, simply parked the car and walked away. But the question remained, why? Who would abandon everything in such a remote place, and where had Alexis gone? In the following days, law enforcement launched a large-scale search of McCormick County, treating the wooded area as a potential crime scene. They conducted a grid search, scouring over 200 acres with the help of K-9 units, ATVs, helicopters, and local volunteers. Yet despite the extensive efforts, nothing turned up. Forensics teams examined Alexis's car, looking for any evidence that might indicate she had been in any danger. They were hoping for DNA or fingerprints or even blood, anything that might suggest someone else had been involved. But again, they found nothing. With time running out and no answers in sight, Alexis's family took matters into their own hands. They organized their own search parties, canvassing neighborhoods, passing out flyers, and spreading her image on social media. They kept Alexis's name in the news through local television interviews and press releases. They also worked tirelessly to involve the public, pushing for more attention to be given to the case, especially after the FBI was eventually brought in to help.
I miss her. I pick up the phone sometime and I think about the phone calls that we shared daily throughout the day, all day. I talk to my baby all day.
Her family believed, as many others did, that her ex-boyfriend, TJ Patterson, who had been the last person to see Alexis, might know more than he had revealed. However, no direct evidence had ever surfaced to tie him to her disappearance. However, by the time the FBI was brought in, precious time had already passed. Communication with law enforcement had been inconsistent, and Alberta was often left to learn about new developments through the news rather than from investigators directly.
Monday marks 1 year since Alexis Ware vanished from her apartment here in Greenville. Though the FBI has been brought in, her family wants more eyes on the case. On Monday, they're going to the Attorney General's office in Columbia, asking for help with the investigation.
As the days turned into weeks, without a major break in the case, the family continued to push for more involvement from the FBI and local authorities. Meanwhile, activists and supporters rallied behind Alexis's family, organizing search parties and protests to ensure her story didn't fade from the public eye. Local churches held prayer services, and the community provided food and supplies to the grieving family. But despite all the efforts, no one had any answers. But theories about Alexis's disappearance began to surface. The most widely discussed theory is that Alexis may have been the victim of foul play. Her family, especially Alberta, leaned toward this possibility. Alexis had expressed deep fear in the days leading up to her disappearance, fearing that someone was following her, fear for her safety, and fear for her children. She even mentioned that she might not make it to her 30th birthday. When considering the strange way her car was abandoned, with all her belongings left inside and the car found in such a remote location, it seemed increasingly possible that something sinister had happened.
My sister doesn't know anyone in McCormick. She doesn't have any relatives. We don't have any relatives there. She doesn't have any friends there in McCormick. So that threw me off. She kept thinking that she wasn't going to make it to her 30th birthday.
Was someone still following her? Did the black truck she mentioned really exist, or was it a manifestation of her growing anxiety? Alexis's sudden actions, dropping off her kids with TJ and speeding off in a different direction, seemed to suggest she was trying to escape something. Maybe she was acting out of fear, trying to get as far away as possible, hoping to throw someone off her trail. Did she drive down isolated roads trying to lose whoever was following her? Perhaps she ended up in McCormick County, where her car was found, and realized too late that she was lost and alone. Throughout this ordeal, Alexis's family remained steadfast. Her mother, Alberta, continued to speak out, insisting that Alexis would never leave her children behind. Alexis's family faced countless sleepless nights, uncertain about what had happened to their loved one, but they refused to give up hope. Alberta spoke to the media, emphasizing that her daughter was not just a missing person, but a beloved daughter and mother, a woman whose children needed her.
She is a mom, she is a daughter. Her kids miss her, they need her. Her mother misses her, we all miss her.
But despite all the efforts, Alexis's case started to feel like it was slipping through the cracks. Alberta felt like the investigation was losing steam, with no new developments to point them in the right direction. Still, Alberta and the rest of the family never gave up, even as the days turned into weeks. As the investigation stalled, Alexis's family was left with an ever-growing sense of dread. They gathered for important moments of remembrance, including a seafood boil on what would have been Alexis's 30th birthday. Her family had been hoping for a different outcome, one in which Alexis would be celebrating with them. But as they came together to honor her memory, they were reminded of the chilling prediction Alexis had made before her disappearance, that she wouldn't make it to her 30th birthday. As the investigation stalled and authorities grappled with the various leads, questions arose. Was Alexis's disappearance the result of foul play, or was it an act of voluntary departure? Could the stalker Alexis mentioned, the person who had been following her for weeks, be involved in her disappearance? Could there be an even more sinister explanation, such as human trafficking? The uncertainty was devastating for her family, who couldn't find peace without answers. The frustration of Alexis's family was not unique to them. It echoed across many other missing persons cases, where families are forced to fight for resources and attention to keep their loved ones' stories from being buried under bureaucratic red tape. The most important question, of course, is what happened to Alexis Ware? How could a woman so full of life and ambition suddenly vanish without a trace? Did she make it to her destination safely, or did someone intercept her along the way? If you or anyone you know has any information regarding Alexis Ware's disappearance, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, please come forward. It's been over 4 years and the family is still looking for answers. What do you think about this case? Let us know in the comments below, and if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.